Hello, everybody. All right. Welcome to the Mikestand. Um, right, apparently. Welcome to the Mikestand. Hopefully, everybody's has had a good weekend. Today is, of course, Monday, August the 25th, 2025. So we're just gonna give people a chance to come in before we get started. Friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. I'm going to go off camera here for a moment to take care of something real quick. I'll be right back. All right, so now that all that's taken care of. So, anyways, so as I said, we're just gonna give people a chance to come in before we get started here. Let's see, it's like almost 2.5 minutes mark now. Yeah, so hopefully everybody had a good weekend. We got a few things to go over here. Let's see. Yeah, I guess I'll just talk about what's on tap for tonight a little early here. So here's what's on tap for tonight. We're gonna do a couple articles from MeTV Tunes, talking about, of course, as they prepare to celebrate the 65th year of the Flintstones. Getting the 65th year of the Flintstones coming into existence, and then from there, of course. Um, all right. Then also we're going to talk a little bit about the works of Michael Maltese, who was of course an animator and director with a number of different companies from from the late 30s through the 70s, as I believe. Um, then, of course, we'll have the wrestling wrap up. Of course, get caught up on some of the big events that happened yesterday, including Forbidden Door from AEW, Heat Wave, and then there's also another big story in the world of professional wrestling to talk about more on the independent scene. Normally, I don't cover a lot of independent wrestling because I know most people probably wouldn't even know too much about it anyways, at least on this channel. But in this particular case, it has some crossover. Some people may have heard Raj Jackson's assault on professional wrestler Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Stu. Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into and of course we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. Oh, with that being said, now with all that said and done, why don't we get ready to go ahead and get started here? As soon as I check a couple things here, okay? So now with all that being said, let's go ahead and get going on the stuff at hand here. Alrighty then. And again, as always, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, let's get going here on this. Alrighty then. So, now, this will be real big if you're a big Flintstones fan. Join Me TV Tunes for the Flintstones 65 years and still rocking. Yeah, I know when they were doing the promo commercial for this, talking about how the Flintstones are now qualified for Medicare. It will be a yabba dabba do good time. Article published on August 21st, which of course was past Thursday by MeTV Toon staff. So there you got from left to right, of course, you got Dino's head there. Behind, of course, Wilma, Pebbles on Fred's shoulder, Fred. And then you got Barney, Betty, and Bam Bam. All right, so you are invited to head on down to Bedrock with Me TV Tunes as we celebrate 65 years of the Flintstones. That's right, Fred is on Medicare. We are marking this momentous anniversary with an all-day marathon event on Sunday, August 31st, beginning at 6 a.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 a.m. Pacific. Get excited for a curation of some of the best episodes and movies of the Flintstones. Here's a look at some of our Stone Age programming. Have a yabba dabba do time, a dabba do time. We'll have a gay old time. Let's see now. All right, so starting off at 6 a.m., 5 Central, 3 Pacific, of course, the Flintstone Flyer, the very first episode that kicked it all off. Watch as Fred and Barney invent a flying machine. And then, of course, at 6:30 Eastern, 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 5:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific, the Rock Quarry story. Wilma and Betty fail to recognize their film idol when Fred invites him to dinner. And at 7 a.m., 6 Central, 4 a.m. Pacific, The Little White Lie. Fred has to explain poker winnings to Wilma, who thought that he was visiting a sick friend. 7:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific. The Gruesomes. The Gruesomes. The Flintstones are in for a shock when the weird Gruesome family moves in next door. Kind of like the Stone Age version of the Addams family, basically. Let's see, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific, The Engagement Ring. A case of mistaken identity over an engagement ring gets Barney in a fight, literally. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 Central, 5:30 a.m. Pacific, Impractical Joker. After enduring too many of Fred's practical jokes, Barney plots revenge. 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 Central, 6 a.m. Pacific. High school Fred. Wilma thinks Fred is about to be promoted when Mr. Slate sends Fred to school for 2 weeks. 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 Central, 6:30 Pacific. Fred Flintstone before and after. Fred appears on TV in a weight reduction commercial. Those, of course, are all from the 60s, more or less. But and then, of course, we get into the first movie. They're going to show first Flintstone movie of the day, that day, as at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. The Jetsons meet the Flintstones. Now, this movie came out, of course, in 1987. The Jetsons accidentally time travel to the Stone Age and meet the Flintstones. A little bit of crossover aspect there. Let's see. Then you got at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific, The House Guest. Trouble arises when Fred invites the Rubbles to spend a week at his home. Yeah, kind of the idea of what happens when you actually start living with your best friend. It's not always pretty. Let's see. Then at 12:30 p.m. And at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central, and 9:30 a.m. Pacific, the Happy Household. After quarreling over the household budget with Fred, Wilma applies for a job. I wonder if that's the one where she becomes a happy housewife on TV and ends up neglecting her husband, because the Happy Housewife becomes such a popular TV show that it leads to a rival TV station showing everybody the neglected husband, which gets the show canceled. I wonder if that's what this episode is. Anyways, let's see. Then at 1 p.m., 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 Central, 10 a.m. Pacific, The Great Gazoo. Of course, The Great Gazoo, voiced by the late, great Stanley Corman. When Fred and Barney release a little green alien from his crashed spaceship, the creature pledges to serve them. You little dum-dums. At 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 Central, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, The Drive-In. Fred and Barney's plan to become wealthy by becoming restaurant owners goes awry. 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 a.m. Pacific, Rip Van Flintstone. Fred falls asleep and dreams that he has slept for 20 years. Yep, I think I kind of remember some of that episode as well. And again, if a friendly reminder, of course, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, continuing on here, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Central, 11:30 a.m. Pacific, Barney the Invisible. Fred invents a soft drink formula that causes Barney's hiccups to disappear, along with Barney. 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 Central, noon Pacific, Mother-in-law's visit. Fred promises Wilma that he will try to like her mother. Pearl Slaghoople, and we've all seen a number of the mother-in-law episodes where she is just constantly a thorn in Fred's side. 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 Central, 12:30 Pacific. Dino Goes Holly Rock. Fred enters Dino in auditions for a popular TV series. 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 Central, 1 Pacific. Dal S for Suspicion. Fred becomes suspicious when Wilma insists he take out life insurance. Whoa. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 Central, 1:30 Pacific. The X-ray story. Fred is mistakenly treated for a rare dinosaur disease. 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. The Hot Piano. When Fred finally remembers his wedding anniversary, the result is almost disastrous. 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Central, 2:30 Pacific. Blessed Event Dress Rehearsal. Nervous father-to-be, Fred, rehearses a trip to the hospital maternity ward with Barney taking Wilma's place. Yes, this was the lead into, of course, the introduction of Pebbles Flintstone, right? Let's see, and then we get into some more, I guess, special guest appearances. 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, and Marg Rock presents beautiful singer dancer Anne Marg Rock, basically the Flintstones version of Anne Margaret, or Anne Margot, arrives in Bedrock to dedicate the new Bedrock Bowl. 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Central, Samantha. During a camping trip, a friendly witch helps Wilma and Betty amaze Fred and Barney with their outdoor skills. Samantha, again, a kind of a crossover there between another show that was 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, 3:30 Pacific. A crossover between Bewitched and the Flintstones right there. With, of course, I believe Elizabeth Montgomery provided her own voice for Samantha's voice in that episode. Let's see. 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific. Alvin Brickrock presents. Fred and Barney suspect the worst when a neighbor's wife disappears. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific. Dr. Sinister. Fred and Barney become involved in an international espionage plot. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 p.m. Pacific, The Man Called Flintstone. Fred Flintstone, filling in undercover for Sergeant Agent Rock Slag, investigates the mysterious criminal, the Green Goose. Watch the Flintstones on MeTV Tunes every day at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Central, and 4:30 Pacific. Part of the Jetsons Flintstones Hour on MeTV Tunes. Well, there we go with that one. Let's see. I actually need to step away from the computer for a moment. I'll be right back. But what I will do is I'll put some music on to entertain you guys while I'm gone. All right, sorry about that. Anyways, well, get ready to move on to the next story now. Again, friendly reminder, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, um, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, let's move on to this next article. Let's see. Hanna-Barbera cartoons written by Michael Maltese, from Termite Terrace to the Flintstones. So Michael Maltese, as I said, was a pretty well-known writer. Cartoons. I think writer slash director slash voice actor. Started out, of course, with Warner Brothers, and then eventually moved over to Hanna-Barbera, I guess. So let's get into this then. All right. Michael Maltese is remembered as a legendary Looney Tunes writer, credited with writing Grand Slam hits like What's Opera Doc and Hair Trigger. He even acted on occasion, performing live in You Ought to Be in Pictures as the mean security guard. So that's him right there. That's him right there in You Ought to Be in Pictures. So, and voice acting as extras in cartoons like Bugs Bunny Rides Again. We have him to thank for over 300 classic Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies cartoons, but he didn't stop there. As the original Warner Brothers animation department began to shut down in the early 1960s, Maltese found new opportunities at Hanna-Barbera Productions. He brought his wisecracking, jovial Looney Tunes humor to cartoons like Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, and many more. Going through his career, it's noticeable how he was at the center of everything in the golden age of animation. He got a start working on Popeye and Betty Boop at Fleischer Studios, became the go-to writer, in parentheses, and cartoon gag creator at Warner Brothers, and wrote on shows where he trained younger writers to take up cartoon storytelling mantle at Hanna-Barbera. Let's take a look at all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons Maltese wrote. Number 1, Tom and Jerry. Let's see. Before completely leaving Warner Brothers, Maltese freelanced at MGM with Hanna-Barbera, writing with Hanna-Barbera. Of course, if you guys remember, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera also were the guys who helped to create Tom and Jerry as well for MGM. Writing Tom and Jerry cartoons. At MGM, he was reunited with his partner in tunes, Chuck Jones. So this was later on in the 60s. And they created classics like Snowbody Loves Me, Penthouse Mouse, and The Cat Above, and The Mouse Below. The Huckleberry Hound Show, which came out, of course, in 1958. Probably the first real success story for the Hanna-Barbera studio, as Rough and Ready didn't really last too long. Maltese also wrote 4 episodes of the Huckleberry Hound Show, including Thanksgiving short Grim Pilgrim. The Yogi Bear Show. Yeah, and to my Rumble viewers too, a friendly reminder: if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, that would be appreciated as well. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So all right. So the Yogi Bear Show. Maltese co-wrote 32 episodes of the Yogi Bear Show with fellow Looney Tunes alumni Warren Foster. They would divide up the segments, so one would write the main Yogi Bear story, while the other would write the Snagglepuss and Yacky Doodle segments. His most notable work of this era was creating Snagglepuss's catchphrase, "Exit stage left." Number 4, Top Cat, the unbelievable Top Cat. Of course, voiced by the late great Arnold Stang, who also voiced Herman in the Harvey Toons cartoons, Herman and Catnip. Maltese wrote three episodes of Top Cat, The Missing Heir, A Visit from Mother, and Unscratchables. The Flintstones, of course, Alan Reed as Fred, Mel Blanc as Barney, Gene Vanderpill as Wilma, and then originally, of course, Bede Benaderet as Betty before Jenny Johnson took over for her. Maltese wrote 5 episodes of The Flintstones, but most importantly, he wrote the very first episode, The Flintstone Flyer. He also wrote The Snorkosaurus Hunter, Carry On Nurse Fred, Ventriloquist Barney, and The Hot Piano. That's right, we have Michael Maltese to thank for the Happy Anniversary song. The Happy Anniversary, Happy Anniversary, Happy Anniversary, Happy Anniversary. All right, so let's see. The new Hanna-Barbera cartoon series, which came out, I believe it was in 1972 or 73, around there. The cartoons in this program were Wally Gator, Touche Turtle, and Lippy the Lion, and Hardy Har Har. The writing was split up between Maltese, Foster, and Tony Benedict. They would split up each episode, with one writer focusing on the story, one focusing on the visual gags, one focusing on the jokes. Number 7, Wacky Races. In collaboration with Lars Bourne, Tom Dagenes, and Dalton Sandifer, Maltese wrote on every episode of Wacky Races and Dastardly and Muttley in their flying machines. For the Perils of Penelope Pitstop, Maltese was paired with 2 younger writers to mentor and supervise, Joe Ruby and Ken Spears, as Ruby Spears' production fame. He mentored the guys who would go on to create Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? The golden age of animation sure was a small world. Of course, Joe, aside from Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? He also Joe Ruby and Ken Spears also gave us, of course, Thundar the Barbarian, Alvin and the Chipmunks. among others. The Centurions. See, the Secret Squirrel Show. Number 8, Secret Squirrel Show. This time, Maltese was paired up with Tony Benedict, Warren Foster, and Dalton Sandifer, and all 4 writers were credited equally for Secret Squirrel, Winsome Witch, and Squidly Diddly. Let's see. So Secret Squirrel and Morocco Mole. I believe, as with most cases of most of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons at the time, Dawes Butler was doing the voices of most of them. Winsome Witch, which I believe was Janet Waldo providing her voice, and Squidly Diddly, which I believe was, again, probably, I think that might have been Dawes Butler. The Adam Ant Show, as in the Adam Ant and, so the same crew that did the Secret Squirrel Show also wrote the Adam Ant Secret Squirrel Show. Maltese wrote on each episode, but got a special edition story by credit for The Big Gimmick, a short where Adam Ant exposes a fake superhero who've been tricking kids for fame and attention. Number 10, The Funky Phantom and Honorable Mentions. The Funky Phantom. I don't know. Was he Hanna-Barbera? Well, I guess we'll find out here. And Honorable Mentions. Michael Maltese was one of 8 writers who collaborated on each episode of The Funky Phantom. He also wrote on Frankenstein Jr. and The Impossibles, when, of course, in the mid to late 60s, when Hanna-Barbera started getting into superhero cartoons. Quick Draw McGraw and Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy. Watch House of Hanna-Barbera on MeTV Tunes, weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, and Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, and 10 a.m. Pacific. Alrighty then, so that's all the articles I was going to do for tonight. And just those 2. So now we'll get ready to move on to the wrestling wrap-up. As, of course, we're going to, as I said, look back to, we're going to, of course, look back over the weekend's 2 big events. Forbidden Door for AEW's Forbidden Door from, as co-promoted by New Japan Pro Wrestling. And WWE's attempt at counter programming in the States here with Heat Wave in Lowell, Massachusetts. Then we'll also look ahead to, of course, to tonight's Monday Night Raw. Now Heat Wave was more of a NXT show, so there might not be much fallout from that. Basically going to be more of a case of stuff preparing for this Sunday's Clash in Paris. So first off, we're going to actually let's talk a little bit about the Forbidden Door and, of course, the pre-show as well with that. Even before I do all that, there is one other big story that needs to be talked about here. So apparently at a KnockX show here in California, KnockX is an independent promotion based here in Southern California. They're part of the WWE's ID program. There was an incident that happened between one of its wrestlers, Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Stu, and Raja Jackson, MMA fighter and the son of Rampage Jackson. Now, apparently what had happened was, I guess there was some confusion or whatever, or something where apparently initially there was some kind of I guess some kind of work that was agreed to, but then apparently it was eventually what was thought to be agreed to, but apparently it wasn't. Where I guess outside the event, before the event, there was an incident where Psycho Stu had hit Raja Jackson over the head with a bottle. I guess they kind of got into it back and forth, and it was believed to be a work, but I guess Raja didn't take it as a work. Stu actually ended up, apologized afterwards. Like, look, man, I didn't mean to get you upset, because Raja apparently was very upset by this. Now, it was eventually revealed that Rampage Jackson, Raja's father, that he'd recently suffered a concussion and was not thrilled at the idea that his son was taking part in a wrestling event because of that. But apparently there was still some heat, because later on in the show, Raja, who was technically not part of the show, as it were, jumped into the ring and cold-cocked Psycho Stu and just continued thrashing on him, to where security and other wrestlers had come and pull the two apart. I guess actually Stu was severely beaten. Now, Stu went into professional wrestling to deal with his PTSD. He's a former Marine, and to deal with his PTSD, got into professional wrestling. But apparently there is an investigation going on. A lot of people are calling for Raja's arrest. His father has apologized to people. So just something that just totally got blown out of proportion, it sounds like. But I guess we'll just wait and see. We'll keep an eye on that story. So now with that out of the way, let's I guess go on to what I was going to get to before here, and that's what happened at Forbidden Door on Sunday. First off, during the 0 hour show. Now, Forbidden Door, of course, is taking place from the O2 in London, England. Actually, it took place yesterday. Excalibur and Ian Riccaboni were on the 0 hour pre-show. The opening match of that show saw an 8-man tag match in which New Japan Junior Heavyweight Champion El Desperado teamed with Paragon's Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong and New Japan's Yuya Uemura. First time being outside of Japan since he returned to Japan after his sojourn in TNA. Defeated the team of the crew of Action Andretti and No Rush, and Don Callis' family members Josh Alexander and H. Cero, who had Lance Archer and Rocky Romero in their corner. In a 6-man tag match, you had the Gates of Agony of Bishop Conto Leona teaming with Ricochet to defeat Jet Speed and Rev Pro star Michael Oklahoma, with Amira Blair in their corner. Jet Speed of Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet Kevin Knight. Then in an 8-woman tag match, you saw Megan Bain team with a Triangle of Madness of Sky Blue, Julia Hart, and Tekla, with Penelope Ford in their corner. They defeated Harley Cameron, Queen Aminata, Willow Nightingale, and Chris Statlander. During a post-match beatdown by Megan Bain and the Triangle of Madness, we saw the return of Jamie Hayter, who had been taking some time off at Forbidden Door. Jamie Hayter came out to make the save on Queen Aminata, Harley Cameron, Willow Nightingale, and Chris Statlander. And in the main event of the 0 Hour pre-show, the ops of Powerhouse Hobbs, Samoa Joe, and Katsuyori Shibata defended and retained the AEW World Trios titles over the Bullet Club New Japan's Bullet Club War Dogs threesome of Clark Connors, Drilla Maloney, and Robbie X with Gato in their corner. So that was on the pre-show. Then moving on, of course, to the main show. Here's what went down. Also from this was a co-promoted event between All Elite Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, and again, friendly reminder to you guys: if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, during the main show, of course, you had Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross, Walker Stewart, Don Callis, and Bryan Danielson all on commentary. Opening match of the event saw the reuniting of Adam Copeland and Christian Cage as they defeated the matriarchy of Killswitch and Kip Sabian with Mother Wayne in their corner. Kyle Fletcher with Lance Archer in his corner successfully defended and retained the AEW TNT title over New Japan's Hiromu Takahashi. In the four-way match for the AEW TBS title, Mercedes Moné successfully retained over Alex Windsor, Stardom's Bozilla, and CMLL's Persephone. Zack Sabre Jr. successfully defended and retained the IWGP World Heavyweight title over Nigel McGuinness, who of course had Daniel Garcia in his corner. And then in the three-way match, the AEW World Tag Team titles, Brodito, Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito and Brody King successfully defeated the Hurt Syndicate, former champions of the Hurt Syndicate, Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley, and FTR's Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. I believe they got the pinfall on FTR to get them. In the match for the AEW Unified titles, Kazuchika Okada successfully retained over Swerve Strickland. Of course, after the match, we saw the return of Wardlow as he attacked Swerve Strickland and subsequently joined the Don Callis family. Now, apparently, there is a little bit of, everybody in the Don Callis family, with the exception of Konosuke Takeshita, who recently won the G1 Climax to earn a title shot at the IWGP World Heavyweight title, initially scheduled for Wrestle Kingdom this year, I guess, in 2026, in January, is looking to get that title shot sooner, but much to his chagrin, saw the addition of Wardlow as the Don Callis family continues to grow. Toni Storm successfully retained the AEW Women's World title over Ring of Honor World Champion Athena, who had Billy Starks in her corner. Adam Page successfully retained the world title over MJF. And the main event saw, in the Lights Out Steel Cage match, Darby Allin, the Golden Lovers, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, Will Ospreay, and Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated the team of the Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli and John Moxley, their hired gun, Gabe Kidd, and the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, with Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta in their corner. It also saw after the match, Ospreay being carried out on a stretcher due to, I guess, a post-match attack. So that's all that happened at Forbidden Door. Now as we look over what happened at Heat Wave, as WWE tried to counter program with an NXT program. WWE Heat Wave, which happened from the Lowell Memorial Auditorium in Lowell, Massachusetts, with Booker T and Vic Joseph on commentary. Opening match saw in a number one contenders match, in a number one contenders triple threat match for the NXT Women's title for number one contender. Lola Vice defeated Jada Parker and Kalani Jordan to become the next challenger for JC Jane's NXT title. In a match for the WNXT tag team titles, the Dark State duo of Osiris Griffin and Dion Lennox defeated former champs Hangman Tank Ledger, and Hank Walker. In the triple threat match for the TNA Knockouts World title, Ash by Elegance of the Elegance brand with Heather and M by Elegance and the personal concierge in her corner successfully took the title off of JC Jane, who had her Fatal Attraction members in her corner of Fallon Henley and China Nix and Masha Slamovich, as Ash by Elegance brings the TNA Knockouts World title back to TNA, as well as bringing the TNA Knockouts World title to the Elegance brand, as of course she's also was one of the three co-holders of the TNA Knockout World Tag Team titles. Then Blake Monroe defeated Jordan Grace in a one-on-one match. And then in a mixed tag match, the Canadian duo of Chelsea Green and Ethan Page, with the Secret Hervis of Alba Fire and Piper Niven in their corner, defeated Tavian Heights and Tyra May Steele. The main event saw Obafemi successfully defend and retain the WNXT title over Javon Evans. So now we're going to take a quick peek at what's going to be going down on tonight's Monday Night Raw, and also look ahead to see, at least up to this point, the card for Clash in Paris as well, coming up this Sunday the 31st. So, let's see here. All right. And again, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking, sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, first off, on tonight's Monday Night Raw, which will be the Go Home Raw before Clash in Paris this Sunday, which will be on Netflix, coming from the TV Pulse Live in Birmingham, West Midlands, England, UK. Already signed for the two matches thus far signed for tonight. Rhea Ripley will be taking on Roxanne Perez in a one-on-one match with Raquel Rodriguez in Roxanne's corner. And then Kofi Kingston of the New Day with Grayson Waller and Xavier Woods in his corner will be taking on Penta. Now, looking ahead to this Sunday's Clash in Paris, this Sunday's Clash in Paris, premium live event from the Paris La Défense Arena in Paris, France. So thus far there are four matches signed for a clash in Paris. Roman Reigns will be taking on Bronson Reed, looking for some revenge for Bronson stealing his sneakers. John Cena is set to take on Logan Paul. In a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match, Sheamus will be taking on Rusev. In a fatal four-way for the WWE World Heavyweight title, Seth Rollins is set to defend against CM Punk, LA Knight, and Jey Uso. So that's all I've got. That's all we got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now let's go ahead and take with today being Monday, August the 25th, 2025. Let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche's history. So first off, we're going to head back 40 years ago. As on this date, 40 years ago today. And I find it. This date, 40 years ago today. The film Akumato no Pirinsu, Mitsume ga Toru, premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 1985. So 40 years ago today, actually it premiered on television, not in theaters. So in 1985, the television film Akumato no Pirasu Mitsume ga Toru, translated The Prince of Devil Island, the Three-Eyed One, premiered on television on this date back in 1985, 40 years ago today. So, now, and that's another one of the late great Osamu Tezuka's works. So with let's see, now moving ahead to the year 2010, so 15 years ago today, we clear all that out. On this date, 15 years ago today, in the year 2010, going on sale, of course, in comic book shops. The 90th issue of Dark Wolverine from Marvel's Marvel Knights imprint. The 90th and final issue of Dark Wolverine went on sale on this date in comic shops on this date back in 2010. It sold for $2.99 with 32 pages. The story was Empire Prelude, featuring Daken, written by Daniel Way, art by Mirko Pierfederci, and Corey Pettit doing the lettering. And finally, as we get to the last piece in each history, we move ahead to the year 2015, 10 years ago today. On this date in the year 2015, on this date in the year 2015, the Warner Brothers Animation DC film Lego DC Comics Superheroes Justice League Attack of the Legion Doom premiered on this date back in 2015. So Lego DC Comics Superhero Justice League Attack of the Legion Doom is a 2015 American animated superhero comedy film based on the Lego and DC Comics brands, which was released on August 25th on Blu-ray, DVD, and digital HD. This is the fourth Lego DC Comics film following Lego Batman, Lego Lego DC Comics Superheroes, Batman Beleaguered, and Lego DC Comics Superheroes Justice League vs. Bizarro. So with that being said, thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, we'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.